I'm Ibrahim Jarsol. I work in Feed the Future Kenya Livestock Market Systems program. It's a 5-year USAID funded project which is implemented in northern counties of Isiolo, Garissa, Wajir, Marsabit and Turkana. I came to understand or to meet the need to have a discussion on range management, because within that project there is a deliverable on strengthening natural resource management, both the water and rangelands. It has aspect on also conflict management and drought risk management. So there is a lot of need for the aspect of mapping of these resources for communities within these areas to properly plan on how they graze and use their water resources. We needed some support as an institution or as a program to implement this, and through our partnership with Partners for Resilience and Economic Growth, as convened by the USAID among the implementing partners that work within the Northern Kenya region, we had a discussion with the Regional Center for Mapping Resources for Development, and they had all the skills and capacities that we need to map resources within the communities. And through our engagement as PREG, we started something on looking at the rangelands, probably observations, observations on the areas which we work. And we got introduced to Rangeland Decision Support Tool, a tool that helps us to assess the vegetation condition of these rangelands at different times of the season. Within the communities where we work, pastoralists use also resources at a particular time of the year in a different place. So it was very necessary for communities and also for institutions that work with communities to understand how vegetations are at different times of the season. And the tool really helped in identifying how situation looks at different times of the year. So initially, communities were traditionally surveying lands. They send individuals to go around and look at how the conditions look before they move. And sometimes they identify local scouts to look at how situations are going around. So the technology came about and reduced that amount of resources or time that communities put into surveil land, although it is also very necessary to an aspect of governance to surveil and also steward the land. But it really helped in when the technology came in. It really helped to understand how to really observe how situations are at different times of the year. So before, it has been the traditional ways which were not very productive, and it was very time intensive, resource intensive, and also very time costly. But now with the technology, we can now easily observe how situations are. And this was achieved through partnership with the Regional Center for Mapping, RCMRD, and the institution which I work for, MASICO, which also implements that Kenya Livestock Market Systems program, got into an MOU with the organization to help in the aspects of mapping, while the institution also supports in the logistics, probably on the ground, as mapping can be done. So what I recommend probably in future that we do, the mapping of resources, as we have already done with the wards that we work in, around 15 of them. In Northern Kenya, if you look at the scope of the maps that we have, there's a small area which has been already mapped out of the bigger span of the northern rangelands. So we recommend, if possible, that the institution can move a step in mapping other areas. Through our program, we feel we will be covering a scope of around 24 wards within these 5 counties, and we will really appreciate if the institution can give us a helping hand in mapping resources within all these areas. Yeah, so the CIDPs, when they came up, there were very minimal information on the ground, on the ground cover, on the observations on the ground. But with the regional, with the Rangeland Decision Support Tool, you can easily show situations or vegetation change over years. So within the CIDPs, if you look at them now, probably the relationship between the technology and how communities have interacted with it and developed maps can be observed even like in the Isiolo CIDP. We have areas where communities have mapped resources, grazing areas, which is also within the CIDP. The areas where people mapped even minerals, which are also captured in the CIDP in areas where they are working on issues about natural resources. It made it easy for communities. It has been a challenge initially to scout these rangelands, to manage how healthy is it, the health of the rangeland also. For you to understand whether the rangeland is healthy or not, you need to frequently observe. Initially, it's very intensive, cost intensive and time intensive also to go around in those vast rangelands to observe how they are most of the time. But within the observations that the technology provides, the Rangeland Decision Support Tool, you can see anomalies that happens with change in how it is used and even change with weather. So I think all those new informations were initially not there that can inform how people plan, how they use grazing, and even how people plan on how they are utilizing the vegetation. So it really brought about a new set of information that can inform planning at the county level and even use of this rangeland at the community level. I think one of the everything good has also some small hiccups which probably needed to be improved. One, the tool is very applicable and easy to use for a person who understands technology. But people at different levels have different capacities. In most of these areas where we work in, the communities are largely not very literate. So in many of these counties, over 70% of the community residents are not that literate. So the technology looks a bit very conversant to a person who is somebody who is tech savvy, somebody who has a good smartphone, and probably for an elder to engage with it, it's from experience I've seen elders confusing where some of the features are. So I think to improve on that, probably we need to improve the quality of the observation, make also some of those photos, those observation photos, accessible to organizations or institutions that work with communities on issues about rangelands, because it's also very costly to get a very fresh or a new real-time photo of those rangelands. So if we can get information that are very clear, real-time, on how different species grows within rangelands, this will be, I think, the situation will be better than how good already it is.